This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. I have isolated, I've been fuzzy the last couple of days, and I have a little thing that says my connection is unstable. I guess if something's going to be unstable, a connection is a good thing compared to other things in your life that could be unstable. But they're going to come out and fix the transformer. So I'll be back in HD for all of your viewing pleasure. Got a big derby going on out west, the One Bass US Open on Lake Mojave. Now remember, when you look at these weights, this is Mojave and it is not Lake Mead, where anything in the double digits typically is pretty good. It's a really stacked top 10 after 2 days. They fish all 3 days out there for the title of the One Bass US Open. Elite Series Pro Bryant Smith, when Ish is on and Ish is we're glad he's not out west anymore, that he made the Elite Series. There's a bunch of guys that are like, ooh, we got a chance now. He has 44-34. He had a 5:59 yesterday, 22-14 on day one, and 21-70. He has a fairly substantial lead, like a 3-pound lead almost, in the U.S. Open. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes down. Former U.S. Open champ Kyle Grover, he's in second with 41.88. Spencer Sheffield, we've really gotten to know him and his dad, Ron, this past year on BTL, 40.99, so 41 pounds for Spencer. Another former U.S. Open champ, Josh Bertrand, in fifth. Julius Mazie, who won, I think he won the One Bass, this last One Bass on Lake Mead. He's in fifth with 40 pounds, 40.03. They don't do ounces, they do hundredths of ounces. And then Cody Steckel, he's a opens angler. Dude likes to wear a BTL hat. I like to credit most of his success to his hat choice. I need to get him on the show. He actually came up at this last classic and introduced himself. And him and his dad, really good dudes. You got Joe Arube, Levi Sands in seventh, Joe Arube in eighth, Chris Zaldane in ninth, Shane Egger in 10th, and then Luke Clausen in 11th. Another BTL guest, Austin Bonjour, tied for 11th there with 37.55. Another BTL guest, Todd Klein, down in 15th place. And then just some other names that stick out on the top of the leaderboard. Roy Hawk in 22nd, Luke Johns in 30th, and the list goes on. But I mean, anything can happen there. You see a lot of weights flip flop. I think I'm going to get Frankie Jr., Frank Scalish's son. Drove down there, practiced, had a decent day 2 days ago, the opening day. Had a big one, like almost a 5-pounder yesterday, but I would love to get his experience, the first experience out west. Our guest today, in his young 23 years of life, has accomplished, done just about everything that you can. I do not believe that he has attempted to tackle the One Bass US Open yet. I could be wrong on that, but we're going to bring him in live. First time, I believe, on BTL, which is quite frankly a crime. That is the one and only Tucker Smith. Tucker, this is your first time on BTL, right?
I'm pretty sure you might have done one with the with that tournament with me and Logan one time, but I think this is the first time I've been on by myself.
Yeah, that's it. That should never have happened. I apologize for that.
It's all good.
You try to do all these shows like every day, and then you kind of get, you have some of your regulars, some recurring, and then you try to get what's going on in the tournament, and inevitably sometimes guys just don't, there's a scheduling, or you just forget and it just kind of doesn't work out. So welcome to BTL. I'm excited for today. I told you before we went live, I said, I got this sheet of paper here and we're going to kind of run through things. And I said, it's kind of a pain in the butt having you on because there's a lot of research because you have like major things that have happened in your life from 2018 all the way through 2024. And there's like a major title, a major storyline, a major championship, something that has happened every single year of competitive fishing in your life since 16, which is freaking crazy. Does it feel like that to you? Like, do you just, or does this seem like natural to you? We're going to start going through that. That's how we're going to start this show.
Man, I don't know. I've just always loved to fish, and that's all I really know how to do. I don't really think anything of it. That's all I look forward to. It's all I do is fish. And so, when something happens like that, if I, win a big tournament or whatever back in the past, it's been awesome, because honestly, when I started off, it was more of the fact, to prove like to my parents and my friends and everybody that I really wanted to do this and that I could do this, because when you're young and, you're in high school and, there's a lot of other things that you could be doing. And to be able to show your friends and family that, that you can be successful doing it, that really helped out for sure.
Okay, so you said to prove to your parents. So I got to meet your parents at the classic mixer for the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. They seem very invested in your career. Obviously, very proud of what you've accomplished. But at the beginning, like, did you come from a fishing family? Like, when did you first start fishing tournaments?
Yeah, no, my parents. My dad, he didn't fish much growing up, but he's been super supportive throughout my whole career. But my uncle and my grandfather, they fished growing up and fished a lot of tournaments. So I got introduced to it by them at a really young age. Like, I would say, I think I was probably like, I don't know, probably 3 years old when I like caught my first bass or something.
Mm-hmm.
But my first tournament, I think I was probably about 10 or 12 years old. And I fished with my grandfather, like the Marks Outdoors tournaments they used to have.
Oh, yeah, I fished that. That was wild. Those were absolutely insane, Tucker.
Yeah, 500 boats on Logan Martin and Lay Lake. It's like, it's a rodeo.
That was where they had Marks Outdoors would take all of their tackle from the year, like discontinued stuff that they had, and there would be 1,000 people, and they would all gather around the balcony. With Clark Ream one day on one time on Lay Lake. He's like, dude, you got to fish this. Like the parking, like you would like do a lottery or a raffle for like the parking lot. They'd be parked up miles, and then they would take literally like a ton, like 2,000 pounds of brand new in the package tackle, and you would stand on the balcony, and guys would just chuck 5-gallon buckets of tackle into the crowd, and it was just a feeding frenzy to get. I mean, it was everything. Were you in the crowd like grabbing this stuff as they tossed it?
Oh yeah, it was a yearly celebration, and we would get like trash bags and stuff, because you would just have to get like a big bag and just like run up there, and all the kids would be grabbing tackle. I remember one time they threw a trolling motor off the balcony, and there was like a bunch of rednecks like fighting over a trolling motor. But no, it's funny, dude. It was funny.
So that was your first one with your Gramps at 10 or 11?
Yeah, I was real young. That was the first. We used to fish that tournament. I think we fished it every year, but I think I got to fish it like 3 or 4 years before they stopped doing it. Because somebody.
Do you remember your first one?
I do remember the first one. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember being there.
Yeah. Did you ever win that one?
No. We didn't ever win, but we caught some fish, but I don't think we ever did any good.
So was that like the only tournament that your grandpa would fish in, or was he like an old school Alabama bass club guy?
Yeah, no, he used to fish like the federations and all that stuff.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of your into tournament fishing.
Yeah. That kind of got me, got the fire lit for me, and then I started fishing all around the house and jumped into high school fishing.
So I got into college fishing in like 2007, 2008. Like the first national championship I fished had 36 boats in it. I feel like and it'd been around for like 4 or 5 years. I feel like the high school deal had kind of been around for a couple years, was gaining momentum, but around that 2017, 18, 19, that 8-9 years ago is when it just snap of the fingers exploded, and that was when you were a freshman in high school.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it definitely exploded. It got super big. I remember when I was going through it, it seemed like every year it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like all the kids in the tournaments, it seemed like, I think some of the tournaments, the high school championships that we were fishing, they would have like over 300 boats. And back then, I mean, that's a ton of boats, and now that, I think a couple years ago they had one at they had a high school national championship, and it was like over 400 boats. Like it just keeps growing.
I know. I think I did a video on that where I was like, "Hey guys, let's not put 550 boats on the Cartwell." Like one of the kids messaged me, and he's like, "Dude, we waited 2.5 hours to take off," and I was like, "All right." But I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, that's like you would say a victim of your own success in a way. Like, did you feel it like when you were in it? Could you feel the momentum and all that was building in that high school ranks?
I mean, I just never. I mean, I did. I'm not really. I mean, I just like to fish, man. I never thought about like, I mean, obviously it was good to do well in tournaments and stuff like that, but I never thought about it. I just like to fish. I didn't think, oh, we're doing really good. I just, as much as I could get on the water, I would get on the water. It doesn't matter if I was doing good or bad.
So and I just pulled up here. This is the 2018 high school national championship. There you are, Grayson. And
it's a throwback.
Yeah, that's like the first time you were on camera then, huh?
I think so, yep.
What do you remember about this? Like, had you won? Like, were you a prodigy prior to this, or was this kind of like your first deal where you were like, I'm kind of good at this?
This was like my first tournament, kind of like, big win and everything like that. I know I'd fished around the house, but this was my first time like starting to travel around the country and like actually get some experience other than Alabama. So.
And what was your fishing before? So like I'm buddies with Jordan Lee, and he would talk about how, Matt would say like, oh, Jordan skipped practice. He was always down at Gunnersville. He was always bugging guys. He was on the water constantly. Were you one of those kids from that 10 to 14 years old where you were just totally obsessed with it? Or would you say it kind of came naturally to you?
No, I would definitely say totally obsessed. I mean, I in 8th grade, I actually broke my leg playing football, and I was in a wheelchair for like 3 months. And it was like a year recovery, and that's kind of where I got the kick to fish. I mean, I was researching so many YouTube videos, figuring out everything about bass fishing. I would even, like, my friends and parents would roll me out to the lake and I'd fish out of a wheelchair. Like, that's how much I wanted to do it. I would flip like a jig and a coffee cup off my like hospital bed for like a month, like it was something that I got really passionate about. I didn't have anything to do, and that's when I I wanted to do it after that.
Wow. So that was 2018. Was this the win that kind of put you on the radar with Aaron Martins? Like I've heard guys talk about, well, like Aaron like took this kid under his wings, and he's like the second coming of Aaron Martins. Was that relationship built through kind of like Aaron going, here's some kids from Alabama, or I just relocated from the West Coast, and you kind of got to know him that way? Or
no? So Aaron's daughter, Jordan, went to Briarwood, which is the same high school I went to, and she actually fished with my cousin on the high school team. So I met Aaron through the high school bass fishing team. So it was really cool. He would come by, and actually the first time I met him, I think I was in 8th grade. I think that was the first time I ever met, or no, I met him when I was real little, but the first time like I ever remembered talking to him was 8th grade. And I mean, from then on, we started talking a bunch to each other. We'd be like at the team meetings and stuff like that, and we grew a relationship and ended up starting to go fishing. And it was really cool meeting somebody like that. He was, such a natural.
So, like, would you actually go on the water and like just get to just fish with Aaron for full days and just get to get
Yeah.
inside of his mind and like just talk about what that was like?
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I mean, you can't like put it into words how, how Aaron was, such an amazing person and an amazing fisherman, the most natural fisherman you've ever seen. I mean, I remember being in the boat with him, and he'd be like, "I'm gonna tie this bait on and try this out." He's like, "I think they'll bite it," and he'll tie a bait on, and it won't be a couple casts, and he's already catching fish on it. Like this, I fished with him a lot, pre-live scope, and like he would just pick up baits and throw them offshore and just be like, "This is gonna catch a big one," and he'd pick up I remember when he picked up, he was a big fan of the Suigen, like the scrounger.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, "This thing's like candy," and he'd tie it on and throw it out there and catch a 4-pound spot, and I'd be like, "Dude, this." Just the way that he thought about everything was crazy, and he was using all of his electronics, and huge player with side scan and down scan and sonar, and he was actually, before he got real bad and everything like that, he was we were looking at the live scope, and he was like, you better get good with this because this is going to be the next big thing. And that's why I've spent so much time trying to learn it and get good with it, because he knew, and I wish he was still here today fishing, because I know he'd be one of the best with it.
You got on the water with him though when you guys both had it and got to kind of see how he translated the forward facing sonar?
Yeah, we did. But when that was, I think that was like 2019 or something like that. So it wasn't popular yet. Like we didn't know really what we were looking at. I mean, we did, and like we could see the fish and see the structure, but it wasn't like we weren't fishing really hard with it.
So do you think that kind of the time you spent on the water with him and some of the things he taught you is a part of the reason why you've been so successul in your young career?
I think it drives me, man. Like I don't know. I want to carry on that legacy. Like he was such a good person, and the way that he treated me when I was just a little kid. I was just that little kid, like looking up to Aaron, like, "Hey, man, like you're like the best in the world." Like, and he would just talk to you like you're a regular person. And I remember the first time I went fishing with him, I was like, "Hey, like," I was like, "Let's, this is gonna be fun. Let's go fishing." He's like, "Where do you want to go?" I was like, "Dude, you've won AOIs, you've won blue trophies, like you don't know where you want to go." And I was like real small, and he's like, "No, just tell me where you want to go." And he listened to me, and I literally pointed out a place where we could go fish, and he was like, "Dude, this is an amazing person."
Yeah, we're coming up on, it's hard to believe, I think November 5th, if I have that correct, will be 3 years since Aaron left us. And you actually, even though you're an Auburn guy, which is blue and orange, you still have like the purple in your boat, the little tip of the cap to A-Mart.
Yeah, no, I make sure to keep the purple for sure for A-Mart. That's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to keep that purple in the wrap and the jersey.
So you win in 18, and you're what, 16 years old?
Somewhere in there. I think maybe 17, something like that.
And then you win again in 19, and you're a high school All-American. And then you win again in 2020, and now you're a 2-time high school All-American. And there's over 1,700, I think, schools that have high school fishing teams at this point, and they're pumping out thousands and thousands of teams across the country. And you go back to back to back in 18, 19, and 20. I mean, dude, like, I don't care if that's what that is. Just statistically, that is astronomical. Did you know, like, at the time what you were doing? Like, if you look back on that now, are you like, holy cow? Or did you just expect it? I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I've won before, and heck yeah, I'm going to win again.
I didn't expect it, man. I didn't expect it at all. It was crazy. The first year we caught them shallow, and um, the second year we ended up going back to the same place and fishing the same stuff shallow, and we ended up just catching them again. And nobody was really in there in those places that we were catching them, so we were able to catch them again. The third year, it was just a completely different time of year, and we had to do something completely different. We caught them on like top water and trap on bars, so it was like a completely different time of year. So we had to figure that out. But no, man, I didn't understand like the significance of it at all. I just really just kept fishing, and um, God just kept blessing us.
So you win all this, like you're a bit of an urban legend when it comes to like success, and we're only like a quarter of the way through your list. This Tucker had tons of people out there practicing, and he was pushed and all this. Talk about like the process that you went through. Did you feel pressure on it? Was it just you? Like, how did that all go down?
You're talking about the high school? You cut
The
out for
high
a
school.
second.
Yeah, the high school stuff. Like everyone's like, there's no way he can win this 3 years in a row without people helping him.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just fished out there. I mean, we pre-practiced as much as you could for those
Mm-hmm.
tournaments. We were out there. I remember the last year that we won. Me and Hayden were out there for, a month or whatever. We stayed out there and figured that place out for that time for that time of year. Yeah, because we had never fished bars. We had never fished top water on those bars like that with ditches and those shallow shell bars. That's something we'd never done. So we were like, we're going to get out there and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to put the time in. But yeah, man, I mean, when you have success, especially in your early years, you've got a lot of targets on your back. And all I can say is, we put the time in with it, and we do all that we can to catch fish and find fish, and it really worked out. And that's just part of it. People are going to say stuff, but if you put your time in, you put your time on the water, and you end up having success, and it's a blessing from God, and you can't do anything but be grateful.
Were you heavily recruited? Because now we're up to like 2020, 2019, 2020. You've won this thing 3 times. You're kind of anointed as like kind of the second. I mean, we hadn't seen anything like it since Jordan Lee, and that kind of started when he was 16, but really in college, like in high school. Did you have the Bethels and the McKendrees and the DBUs and all those schools that were knocking at your door and coaches coming to visit you at your school and all sorts of collegiate interest? And then how did you decide on Auburn as where you wanted to continue your fishing career?
Yeah, I did. I know I had an opportunity to go to Bethel. I was looking at Montevallo, Auburn, obviously, and a few more other small schools. But yeah, it was really eye opening to see, going to fish in college, being able to do that, seeing the support from a lot of people trying to get you to go fish at their college was really cool.
What they do?
Actually,
like, I want to hear some of the recruiting tactics of the coaches and the anglers that wanted you to go to their schools. Like, was there any like gift baskets on the door? They ever like pull you out of high school? The coach ever like visit, recruiting trips? Any NIL money maybe slid your way?
I mean, more so like just trips, like getting you out there and like showing you around, and offering stuff like that. But no, it was cool. Logan he recruited me to come to Auburn, and he told me, hey, like, you're gonna get the full college experience, and you're also gonna be around an awesome bass fishing team, and if you come to Auburn, I'll fish with you for sure, because he was looking for a fishing partner, and so yeah, ended up going there, and it was a really great decision. I mean, I think the Auburn team, I think it helped me out in the long run, because we had to do everything ourselves, and we had to figure out how to talk to the sponsors. Because we don't have a coach, it's all student led. We had to figure out how to travel and we didn't have somebody helping us out. We had to go to all the tournaments and, figure all that stuff. So I think it helped out in the long run going there.
Logan, you're talking about Logan Parks. He just wrapped up a really impressive 2024 rookie season on the Bassmaster Elite Series, qualified for his first classic. Had him on the show a couple times. He does a Logan Parks Foundation event with chaos fishing for the high school kids. It's really cool the way that he's kind of leaned into that. Did you know him prior to that, or was he like the cool college kid from Auburn with the gold chain and the slick back hair that was like, hey man, like come to Auburn, I'll show you the ropes around like Toomer's Corner and we'll catch fish and have a good time?
Yeah, no, that I didn't really know him that well. I mean, I knew of him, but
Yeah.
I didn't know him like as a friend or nothing until I went over there.
He's pretty smooth, isn't he?
Yeah. Logan's real cool. Logan's cool, man. He knows what he's doing. He's smart.
So did you guys just immediately like start fishing together, and it was just like one of those team deals where you get in the boat with someone and it just feels natural?
Yep. It was, we got in the boat together and it really did feel natural. We fished really good together. Our first year together, we won Team of the Year for Bassmaster College, and it seemed like everything just flowed really nicely with while I was fishing with him. It was just easy to talk to him and make decisions with him, and it was a good learning experience to be with a veteran of college fishing my first year, so that I could really learn the ropes early on.
Before we dive into the impressive collegiate career, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, more with Tucker Smith. We'll dive into the college years. It's BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Brake Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
Welcome back, BTL, on a very chilly Wednesday. Like cold, like I had to hit the double tap, start the truck up this morning to go get the morning coffee. Talking with 2025 Elite Series Pro Tucker Smith. I asked the same thing and I'm gonna run that later today. Dakota Ebear. I said, dude, is this the first interview that you've been referred to as an Elite Series pro? And he's got this big smile on his face, and he's like, yeah. Have you done an interview yet since you've been Elite Series pro, Tucker Smith?
No.
All right.
It's crazy to hear.
we'll get to that. That's like way down the road from where we're at because we're just starting to get the collegiate career. I also want to mention, I saw someone mention the Power Breaks and we ran that commercial. Dude, those guys are rock solid out of Oklahoma. Obviously a ban on the Elite Series. On the Power Breaks, don't need to dive into that topic. You can't make everybody happy. I'll leave it at that. And I respect Bass for the decision that they made. But what I will say is I got a call from Power Breaks, and they are back with BTL in 25, currently working on a bracket system to where if that does go down to the opens levels to where you can't have the brakes on the back, I can pop them off. Because I said, dude, I got to have these things for crappie fishing in the wintertime and for fun fishing. And I said, can you make it like I'm out there looking in the garage? I was talking to, I was like, dude, you make this thing so I can just like pop them off, unplug them, like just get them off of the boat, and then in like 2 minutes I can pop them back on. And he's like, yeah, we're working on that. So back with BTL in 25, even though I can't use them on the Elite Series. I think most of the guys on the BPT are going to have them next year. I know I've actually, under the table, I've gotten a call from like 6 BPT guys that are like, hey, you got like an in with them? And I was like, I most certainly do. So did you have them on your boat this year?
I did not.
Well, it didn't matter to you. The mere mortal such as myself, we need every little gadget we can get. Put a limit in the boat.
I didn't know. I just heard some stuff that they might ban it, and I was just didn't want to get comfortable with it if they were going to ban it.
I know that's my problem. I got comfortable with them, and they are once you understand like how to use them and how to utilize them, they're extremely handy. They actually, like, you legitimately catch more fish, can approach more fish. And I don't want to hear anything about the boat control issues. Just literally go to any of the 5 trolling motor websites and Google the features that help you remove the skill that is required to maneuver your boat. Like, I don't want to hear about that. If you're going to, then you got to get rid of spot lock. You got to get rid of the reverse. You got to get rid of the course feature. You have to get rid of the drift mode. You have to get rid of, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, but
anyway, the contour line.
Yeah. All of the contour lines. But no, actually, Brady said any of the co-anglers get their line stuck in the brakes. The co-anglers love the brakes because when you have them deployed, they're not snapping baits and spinning rods off, and bait casters hitting the power poles when you cast. Before I even had the brakes, I like to consider myself a very co-angler friendly boater. And I would always drop them halfway anyway when we were fishing. I just like drop them so they wouldn't have to worry about hitting it. Do you do that ever? Drop the poles for your co's?
I do, and especially too if it's like real windy and they're wobbling around, and they're definitely like, it's harder to cast. I'll definitely drop them too.
Yeah, little stabilization there. Don't worry. I'm doing a segment at the end after Tucker's off about how we need to give BASS a lot of credit because they're taking some flack right now. And I was in the car driving today. And it just dawned on me. I was like, you know what? I'm doing a 10-minute piece on the end of this, at the end of the show on this, because I have some convictions about it. All right. So you go to Auburn. Now you're with the big boys, the college guys. It's someone's going to the freaking Bassmaster Classic from the team trainings. You got Wade, you got MLF, you've got Bassmaster. You've been recruited by Logan Parks to go to one of the most storied colleges in college fishing history. Like, I'm just shocked that there wasn't like a Joe Lee call in there. Like, hey Tucker, like heard you're considering War Eagle.
Yeah. No, I've talked to Jordan a decent bit. He's really cool. But I just saw where the team was and I went and did a visit, and I've always been an Auburn fan growing up. My family has. So going there just seemed kind of natural to me because I'd been to games before and we also got the house that we rented to live in. You were allowed to live off campus your freshman year, so you didn't have to live in a dorm or anything. So me and a few of my buddies lived in a house like out in the middle of the woods in the country, like 10 minutes from campus. So we didn't really have to stay in the dorms or nothing like that. So we just kept our boats over there, and I was like, yeah, I mean, this is definitely good to do.
So you're 18 years old, living in a bass fishing frat house with a boat on campus at Auburn.
I was older than 18. I think I was probably
20 to 19.
Yeah, 19, 20.
That's still young enough not to know any better and old enough to get in a lot of trouble.
It is.
So you go out in 21, and 21, I would say 21 is the year. Like I remember being like, oh, this kid's won 3 high school national championships in a row. That's cool. Good for him. But it was 21 that I think you really had the entire fishing world kind of took notice. And the 3 main things that happened there were, one, you and Logan Parks won Bassmaster Team of the Year. And that was in your freshman year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who, like, would you say was, now you're both Elite Series pros. We know how talented you are, but was he calling the shots that first year and you were just fishing? Was it a 50-50 deal? Like, how did that dynamic work to come in that young and win Team of the Year?
I mean, I drove the boat like a few times, but it was mostly he was driving the boat because it was kind of his, like, you know, he was older and he had more experience with the college stuff. So, but yeah, we worked together good, man. Like, we would both make calls about, you know, what looked good to fish, different bait choices. I remember several times where, you know, both of us would, you know, talk about a certain bait to throw and we'd catch them on it and the other one would tie one on, you know, so it kind of went back and forth for sure.
And as part of Team of the Year, they took the top 3 teams from the national championship that year, and then the Team of the Year to compete in the at the time it was the Carhartt Bassmaster, now it's a Strike King deal, Carhartt Bassmaster College bracket presented by Bass Pro Shops. That's ironic because that kind of parlays into what happened a couple months later. But so you ended up in the bracket style, which we're all familiar with now. It just went down a couple weeks ago and made it to the finals. I didn't realize this. I mean, I did at the time, but like this is where the research came into handy, against Tristan McCormick.
Yep.
And I remember this because I'm going to pull up this video, and I remember watching this live. And then I just remember thinking, dude, this is a wild ending, because you had this thing in the bag. You were headed to the frickin' Bassmaster Classic, and Tristan like edged you out. Like, do you have fond memories, bad memories of that? Talk me through this as we pull up, because I remember this fish catch. Man,
no, it was fun. We both were fishing the same area of the lake. We were both fishing the tail race. I've grown up fishing there, and they don't pull current out of that dam. It's Walter Bolden Dam, and it's pretty well known now, but they don't pull current out of that dam very much. And I fished there a ton. So when I saw that they were going to pull a bunch of current that week, I was like, I knew where I was going to fish. And yeah, right here, that's a 4-pound largemouth. That's like a giant for there. Or it was like a 3 3/4 or something like that. But man, I was getting up there in that current, and I had my camera guy scared. I was up in kind of right up there in the corner, and I fished current growing up a lot, so I know how to kind of get around up in those rivers and stuff like that. But it's definitely sketchy.
I've covered an Elite Series up there when they went for the postseason deal or tournament. I think that a full season tournament there on the Alabama River too, and they were ripping current up there. I remember Edwin did a lot of damage up there. Dude, it is like no jack around.
Yep.
But I mean, in the end, I think Tristan, you had it like you were in the Classic, and then Tristan couple miracle fish in the last hour, and he nicked you by 3 ounces.
Yep.
Were you like crushed with that? Or I mean, you come kind of, I don't know you super well personally, but you seem kind of like a guy who's just kind of like, you know, it is what it is. We'll get another crack at it.
I mean, I was crushed, to be honest, because I was young still. And I don't know. I didn't really know, like, just to have it that close, you know, in your hands, and then it just to slip away at the last second. I thought that was my chance to make the Classic for good. I mean, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know what I was going to end up doing. So I knew I was going to fish, but getting a chance like that, you never know if you're going to get another chance like that. So yeah, I was really torn about it, but I'm cool with Tristan, and I know he's a really good guy, and for him to win it, it was awesome to see him go to the Classic. So I mean, I knew if I fished hard and I was going to get another chance to try to get there. So I wasn't too happy. I wasn't too sad in the end after a little bit.
So here's where I'm trying to figure out where this meshes in. So that was like October of 2021. You moved in, you're living in the frat house at Auburn with boats all over the driveway in the woods. Your team of the year. You got Logan Parks taking you into all the good college parties. Then you, what? Am I churching this up too much, or is that fairly accurate?
No, that's good.
Okay, we'll go with that.
It's just funny to think about.
What? Why? Dude, I was in college too. It's just a long time ago.
It's just weird to think of my past like a timeline. Like I've never really thought about it like that. It's really cool.
So somewhere in between there, Johnny Morris comes up with the idea of the Bass Pro Shops US Open. And then everyone in the industry's like, well, we already kind of have the US Open. It's out west. And he's like, I'm Johnny Morris. If I want to name it the US Open, I'll name it the US Open. And then everybody went, okay, that's cool. Have at it, Johnny. So Johnny goes, we're naming it the US Open. And they had regional qualifiers around the country. And the only stipulation was that you had to have couldn't be like a touring pro, had to have under 100 grand, some sort of earnings, which at the time you didn't because you just had high school and college, right?
Yeah.
And do you remember when you guys decided, hey, we're going to fish one of these regionals to try to get to this championship, which is on Table Rock in the winter, and the winners get $1 million? Do you remember who hatched that idea of, hey, let's go try to qualify for this thing?
It was actually my dad. He actually saw that there was these qualifiers for that $1 million tournament, and we were like, me and Logan were traveling to college, actually a college event at, I think it was Wiley, South Carolina. We were fishing a little college event there. My dad was like, hey, this last chance qualifier is at Bull Shoals. Y'all should sign up. So we signed up, and it was a random drawing just to get into the last qualifier. So we ended up getting into the qualifier. Somehow we ended up getting in, and so we drove from Wiley all the way to Bull Shoals, and I think that we had a day and a half or 2 days of practice or something, maybe a day and a half. Went out to Bull Shoals, just kind of figured something out, and we found some fish under some bait and ended up catching them and finishing 14th. And I think you had to come in the top 30 or top something to make the championship, the big tournament. And we made that. And then the next Table Rock was 2 days later. So we had to go straight from Bull Shoals to Table Rock with, barely any practice. And that was kind of when I first kind of figured out the jig head with the minnow. And we found some bait with some fish under it. And we ended up throwing to them and finding a good place and caught them. So it was crazy.
Was this before or after the bracket? This was after the bracket?
Because
it was freaking cold.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was right after the bracket. So you just missed out on the Classic. And then I also think if you made the national championship there at Bull Shoals, didn't Milliken fish that and make that US Open too?
He did. He did.
So both you and Milliken at the time, Milliken hadn't even fished an Open. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of cool.
I'd watched him, and I talked to him there I shook his hand. I was like, hey, I watch your videos. What's up? And he was like, hey, man. He's like, good job. I was like, good job. He had big bass in the tournament or something.
So this all happens quick. So your dad's like, hey, let's fish the last chance. You call Logan. Logan's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. Parties aren't that good right now. So then you roll to Bull Shoals, and then you basically go straight to Table Rock. No practice, hadn't pre-practiced, didn't even plan on fishing in this tournament. You're in it. Like, at what point in time did it dawn on you, like, dude, we're fishing for literally $1 million, $500,000 each, trucks, boats, trophies, cash, sponsorships, legitimately life-changing stuff for a couple of 20 and 22-year-old kids?
It was life-changing for sure. I mean, we didn't think of it because, you know, that amount of money and those prizes, like, that just doesn't seem realistic. You know, it's realistic for, I don't know. It just didn't seem real, you know? So we just were fishing and we were like, hey, we're doing pretty good. We made it to the final day. And then we're like, well, you know, if we come in 10th place, we get like $100,000 or something like that.
Like, the weight zero on the final day too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so you went out on the final day. Was it like 25 or how many, or 50?
I think it was 50. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you went out do you remember that morning, like launching your boat on the final day, knowing, hey, if we have a good day, it's $1 million check at 3 p.m.?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I remember that was when I had my Z20. I had a black Z20 that was super fast. And that boat was a good boat. And I only had a 10-inch helix on the console. I had a 9-inch helix on the front. And then I had a 12-inch live scope, and that's all. I had 3 graphs, and we ended up going out there, and it was super cold that last day, and man, it was like it was a blessing, because when we ran up, we had found a couple fish the days before, and those fish were gone. So we ended up just looking around, and this was still kind of the time where a lot of people were catching them dropping straight under the boat.
Yep.
And that was kind of the big thing. So me and Logan started fishing around, and that was actually the first tournament where I'd ever casted to a fish on live scope. So we ended up starting to do that and casting to those fish with a Demiki rig, and it was like they had never seen it before.
Well, I probably hadn't.
Yeah, they hadn't. And they would see it from, 20, 30 feet away, and they'd shoot up there and eat it. And we were like, dude, we just figured it out. And that last day, we really found one place that had dozens of fish swimming around, and there was tons of bait. And we ended up, like a story with that smallmouth Logan caught right there. That thing came. Yeah, that one right there. It was the biggest one of the day. I was looking around on live scope. He saw one, and I was like, throw over there. He threw over there, hooks it, comes up, jumps. I'd scoop it in the net, comes off in the net like midair. Hook was bent all the way out. We were using a different brand that I won't mention, but before we used the stuff that we use now. But man, the equipment that we were using and the tackle was not pristine. And to be able to get all those fish in the boat, we won by 3 ounces. And the crazy thing is that bracket I lost by 3 ounces. So to win by 3 ounces in this tournament, it was like God was showing me, there's a purpose for why you lost that tournament.
What was Johnny like? Did you get any time like alone with him, like in a room, or like was he like, hey, here's my cell number, or what was your interaction with Johnny Morris after that win?
Yeah, no, he was really cool. After that tournament, they had I think it was like some kind of celebration thing that online for all of his employees, and we were on there, and he congratulated us in front of like all the Bass Pro Shops employees and everything, and we got to talk to him on the phone a few times. So every time we see him, we always say hey to him. It's really cool. It's really awesome to see a guy that's done so much conservation for the sport.
He is, as KDD pointed out, and Mercer at that Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet, which is held at the Wonders of Wildlife. Johnny is the greatest conservationist of our time. And you can look at it and say the $1 billion Bass Pros and the aquarium and all that, but the money and the care that he puts into conservation is very impressive. And then it's also wild. Like, you think he started selling that stuff out of like the back of his car, and then you look around and you see those guys like, Nixon and Stacey King and Basil Bacon and those guys that are in their blue jackets. And you're like, these are just like These are just like dudes. Like when they started out, they were like in the backwoods frat house with their boats out there going, dude, can you believe like Ray Scott has this tournament that like we know guys aren't weighing in frozen bass and we actually like are making a living at this. And then Johnny's like, I got this deal where I could like give my buddies baits out of it. And then you look at him now, he's like a billionaire and all these guys are like 75 in the blue jackets. Like, dude, like the lives they've lived where they're just like buddies. They started out back in the day, just like towing their boats together to get to these tournaments. And now they're icons in the sport.
Yeah. Legends.
Yeah. I'm curious, like the aftermath of that. So you win 500,000. That's $1 million total. You also get a 2022 Tundra. You get a nitro bass boat, all sorts of stuff. Like, did that take a while to like sort out the finances after that? Because you launch that boat in the morning, just like everything's normal in life. And then it's like literally, boom, here you go. There's a lot of zeros on the end of this, a lot of vehicles, a lot of cash, a lot of money, and a lot of eyeballs. Was that a nightmare, or did you have like a good kind of team that helped you with sorting all that out?
Yeah, it was, we had a good team to help us out. I immediately got a financial advisor and a good accountant and had to make sure that I wasn't going to blow that money very quickly. So I ended up trying to, invest as much as I could. And I ran the boat for a year. So, I mean, it's life-changing, man. I mean, that's the reason I'm able to fish today and be able to go fishing as much as I do and be able to, fish the opens and do all the things that I was able to do this year. I mean, I pay for all my stuff, and everything that I do, it's all on me. So it was really a blessing to be able to do that.
You didn't take like $5,000 and just be like, okay, this is.
I mean, yeah, I definitely spent a little bit, a couple nights, but it was not really.
What are we talking about? Like, what was this? So like, we walk us through like maybe one or two extraneous purchases that you may have made, or a couple of did you like go on a trip? Like, did you go to Iceland or something?
Not really. I mean, I was pretty responsible with it, to be honest, man. Like I just knew what it could do, and I knew that if I kept it in the bank and didn't touch it, I could potentially it could grow. So I really tried to manage it well and not touch it and try to be smart with it. I mean, I may have spent $500 here. I bought a brand new Garmin for like $6,000 one time, and I ended up breaking that unit like the second time I took it out. It came off the mount and nobody would replace it, so I had to just basically use that as a paperweight. But no, nothing crazy though. Nothing crazy.
Did the sponsors like flock to you after that? Like, did you get calls from companies that were like, hey, we've seen what you've done. We went back, we did our research. We looked at the high school stuff. We looked at the team of the year stuff. You were just on Bassmaster with the bracket with Tristan McCormick. Now you win this. Were there opportunities that were presented from sponsors following that US Open win? For sure.
That ended up getting my deal with Bass Pro Shops, obviously, and they've been awesome to be able to work with them as a sponsor. But yeah, it definitely opened up a lot of doors for sponsorships, and it kind of got me out there and showed a lot of people that gave us the publicity that we needed to open up some more doors for me and Logan both.
All right, then you had to go back to college after that, didn't you? Or did you drop out?
Yeah, I went back to college, but I wouldn't say I was going to school as much as I should have.
You were like totally ate up with fishing by then. Like you were like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I was. And I started focusing, a lot more on fishing, which I already was, but it was kind of hard to go, full.
But you stayed in long enough to make the to win the 2023 college national championship. Logan at this point was toiling in the opens, which didn't take him very long to get out of. And you had a new partner in Hayden.
Yep.
And were you running the show full on last year then? Like, or were you guys did you just happen to find another partner that you worked really well with?
Dude, me and Hayden have been fishing together for years. I actually live with him now in Gunnersville, and he's one of my best friends. I've known him for a long time, and we fish really good together. Hayden's an amazing fisherman. He just won the Toyota Series at Gunnersville this last year. Yeah, man, we fished really good together. We ended up fishing my last year of high school. I might have been in college, and went back to the high school national championship. Me and him won a national championship in high school together, and then we won the collegiate national championship at Hartwell, and then we also won the Bassmaster one together. So it was cool. We wanted to win a college and a Bassmaster one, just to be able to say that we won both of those. That was something cool. But Hayden's an awesome dude, man.
So you had the Boat US National Championship, the College National Championship, and then for the second time in 3 years, you finished second in the bracket to Easton Fothergill. Like, what is it like to be on the other end of the story of the kid who's coming back from the brain aneurysm and is a miracle man that everybody's pulling for, and you're trying to spoil the comeback story?
Dude, Easton's obviously a beast. I mean, it's hard to stop that train sometimes, but no, I mean, I've been so close to making that tournament, and it's been tough, being able to get that close, but it shows me that, I've got what it takes to make it to that tournament, and it drives me even more. I could curl up in a ball and cry myself to sleep, but I think it drives me even more just to do better.
And you had the lead in that too, and then he pulled up on a point, and similar to McCormick, just went unconscious for 20 minutes, and there was no catching up because that was the one that was that was in Kansas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Milford Lake.
Dude,
it was tough.
I fished the Bass Nation Regional on Milford. It was so tough.
I didn't know they had other tournaments there.
Oh, they had one. John Stewart, who is running a lodge up in Grand now, has a great lodge if you guys are looking for anything on Grand. But at the time, he was the Bass Nation director. He's from Kansas. Yep. I feel like he might have had a hand in putting that regional there. I think I had 3 bites in practice in 4 days. There's 150 boats on that, by the way, with 3 days of practice. It's like a 3,000 acre lake with 5 fish in it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Dude, I cannot imagine that many boats. There was 9 boats in our tournament. Everybody was rotating the same points. Like it was like an old Bassmaster where they rotate the holes.
It was a whole course. The night before the tournament, the day before, the last day of practice, it was 78 degrees and it blew 30 miles an hour. That we had an off day. Then the off day, it was 26 and it snowed 5 inches. And then the tournament started.
Yeah.
And
the wind eliminates half the lake too.
Yep. I rolled out the first morning, and this is when you're just trying to be the top in Oklahoma. I catch 3 for 8. I catch a 4-pound largemouth and 2 2-pounders because they, on top of it all, they're like, hey, let's make it 15 inches. So I had 3 for 8 in the first 10 minutes and then never had a bite the rest of the day. And I was leading Oklahoma and was in like 3rd in the tournament with like 8 pounds on. The second day, I zeroed. I never had a bite. So I went 8 a.m. all the rest of that day. And then the entire next day, I only dropped to 13th place and I was 2nd in the state going into the final day.
Golly.
Dude, it was so bad. And then the final day I caught 1. I ended up finishing like 12th in the tournament, and I got beat by like 1 fish to go nationals that day. But that's how you fish a 3-day tournament, catch 4 fish, and top 20 it. Go to Milford.
Yeah. No, that place
was it that tough when you were there?
Oh, it was like the water was like turning over or something too. So like they wouldn't touch nothing. Like I was throwing like a Ned rig, and I was grinding with the Ned rig. I've never grinded with the Ned rig before, and it was, I mean, you would catch 1.5 and be like pumped up, Yeah.
And here's the thing on that lake too. I went into that thinking I was going to just destroy everyone because I did so much historical Google Earth data on that lake. And there's like, dude, you go back and look at that and you're like, oh, look at this foundation that's in the middle of this cut. Look at this cement pillar. Look at this rock pile. And you like go to them and they just look like juice. And you fire that net out there and it goes donk. And then as soon as you lean into it, it starts going all drum.
Yeah. Or albino catfish. I caught a couple of those.
Yeah. I think that tournament was one just going up and down the dam with a mag draft for 3 days. There were, I think when I rolled pie, there were like 46 boats on that dam, and it's a small dam. There were 3 levels. There were the guys on the rocks, and there were the guys just off the rocks, and then there were the guys way out off the rocks, and it was like a carousel of revolving boats back and forth.
Gosh.
So
that's crazy.
All right, we've made it up to 2023. I did see Dan O'Sullivan in the queue. We've got one more segment of the Tucker Smith Chronicles. When we come back, that's 2023 and 2024. And then we'll let you go and we'll bring Dano in as he kind of dissects what's happening on the final day of the One Bass US Open out on Mojave Lake. So quick commercial break. When we come back, the final or the next chapter, like right now it's the final chapter, but I feel like you're going to have a lot of chapters for a lot of years to come. It's BTL with Tucker Smith. We'll be back right after this.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm going to talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made.
This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done. Check them out at denalifishing.com.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back. Final chapter so far with 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series rookie Tucker Smith. Like I said, Dan O'Sullivan joining us from the West Coast, talking about the One Bass U.S. Open with a star-studded leaderboard as we go into the final day of that. You ever had any desire? Have you ever had any desire to win both of the U.S. Opens, Tucker Smith?
I have wanted to go fish that tournament. I've looked into it. I haven't gone. Yeah, I want to go fish it.
You have to. I think you would be fairly well equipped to compete for the dub.
I think it would be fun traveling out there.
Yeah, it's wild. Have you ever done the Western Drive? Like you're crossing New Mexico and the desert, Arizona, Nevada, that type of thing?
I've never fished out there at all. I've been over there before, but I haven't ever fished.
You know, back in the day, back in the Stone Age, bass would occasionally venture to the West Coast. I know that seems like a like a tall tale now, but it used to happen back in the day. All right. So we go into 2023. We talked about the college exploits on that, Eastern Father getting it. You also made headlines in 2023. I've never heard you talk about this. I'm going to give you the floor just to ask you about it. I fished that tournament, the Bassmaster Open tournament on Lake Eufaula in Alabama, obviously a lake that you're familiar with in Alabama. Stellar day 1, top 10 finish. Day 2, you get DQ'd under weird circumstances, and then the internet freaking explodes.
Yeah.
And then there's all sorts of stuff for the next 2 months. I'll give you the floor on kind of what you want to say about that. But, dude, if we're going through the chapters of Tucker Smith, like, this is a chapter that has to be read. I don't know. Have you ever even talked about this publicly before?
Not really. I mean, I posted that thing on my Instagram talking about it, but I haven't ever got really on a podcast and talked about it.
Do you have any desire to just like dabble into it? Because I mean, we're all like curious as to what the hell happened.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I was fishing. I had a good day the first day, and the second day, you know, I ended up pulling up to some places and fishing for some fish that were on schools, and I had a friend that was out there, and he was spectating me, watching me fish. And I was actually fishing a place I'd already caught a nice bag off of it. And I had another competitor pull up and actually, you know, was fishing like right beside me and was casting like kind of right across my boat where I was fishing at. And he saw that and came up there and kind of lost his cool on him. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be part of the situation. And I just, you know, after that, I left and didn't think anything of it. And by not reporting that situation of him freaking out on that guy, then I got DQ'd from it and got my weight from day 2 zeroed. But, you know, thinking back on it now, I try everything I can in my will to, you know, be careful and stay away from any confrontation. And it was a big learning experience growing up from that experience and going through that and maturing through it. And now, you know, I spend so much time trying to do everything I can to do everything, you know, perfect and as much hard work as I can to do it. And that's what I really set out for this season in the Opens, as well as after going through that and you know, having that happen, I think it really pushed me to do everything that I could to put all the work in I can for this year. And I think it turned out in a good way for me.
Did that affect you mentally? Like, did you get online and read any of the stuff?
I mean, it did. You know, there's going to be a lot of people that say stuff and that don't know you personally. And that's the way I always thought about it. Like, if people, you know, knew you or cared to ask you personally what happened, they would call you and ask you instead of just, you know, listening to all the rumors and stuff. But that's the negative of social media these days, man. Like, social media is great, but it's also can be really negative. And if you use it in a negative way, you know, then it's going to be used negatively. But yeah, I mean, you just have to keep pushing and put your head down and fish. I kind of already had a target on my back. So when something like that happens to to somebody that fishes a lot and has had some success in the past, and you're really going to be, you know, pushed and eyes are going to be on you. So that's why I've tried to, you know, use it as a learning experience and keep moving forward.
I've always said this as I try to cover things that happen on the water. I mean, dude, it happens. I mean, I went to every single Elite Series, Tucker, from 2008 to 2018. A lot of those were without live. You'd be shocked at stuff that goes down on the water that guys don't have any idea about, just because it was, you know, before GoPros, before the live coverage, before the internet. Like, it's a individual sport where everyone's trying to compete. I've always said when it comes down to things that have happened on the water, there are very few parties that know what actually happened. And those are the parties that are involved in that occurrence of what went. They're the only ones who know. So the guy who was fishing next to you, and the third party. We'll just refer to him as the sheriff for this show. Those are the three. Those are the three that know exactly what happened in this. And outside of that, everything else is just conjecture and hyperbole. So I brought that up because in my research, I want to bring this back to something that happened during your high school career that I thought was interesting. So in 2023, Hank, Trip Weldon had retired, and then Chris Bose and Lisa moved up to the Elite Series to take over that. And then Hank, who had ran the high school and the collegiate fishing, was bumped up to the Open. So when all this went down and stuff, I would imagine Hank Weldon, who was a tournament director, and all that is private of how it actually, whatever, I don't care how it went down, but he was the one making decisions, and he was the one talking to you and all this, and you went through an appeal and all that. And you did say in your statement, you said, to be clear, I was disqualified because I did not report the situation to Bass officials. I was not disqualified for cheating in the event. I respect the sport too much to gain an edge by crossing lines. So I want to go back, and I got to pull this up here. I want to go back to a article in Bassmaster that was posted on November 2nd, 2020. It was after you had just three-peated with Hayden on giant smallmouth. And when it comes down to the bottom, there is a quote, and it's from Hank. And I was like, okay. And I was just reading, and this is what Hank said. This is in 2020, 3 years before this incident went down. Because like you said, you read a lot online and you hear a lot, all sorts of stuff. This is what Hank said in 2020, 17. Weldon said Smith comes across as ice in his veins. I'd agree with that. A competitor is never rattled under pressure, but he added that Smith's among the most personal young anglers he's met. He's very mature. He's very respectful. He's everything a tournament director would want in a contender. He never complains about the rules. He plays the game he's supposed to play. He accepts the competition, and he goes out and wins. I thought that was an interesting quote in 2020.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That leads me to give a lot of credence to Bass too, because he says that, and then he plays by those rules in 2023. But I just thought that was kind of a neat full circle deal.
Yep, for sure. No, that's really cool. That's really cool.
And then a lot of people followed your journey in 2024. One stumble. It was ironically where a lot of the guys who were in the EQs this year stumbled, which was at
Santee.
Yeah, I blocked it out of my mind. I had such a bad finish there.
Me too.
But other than that, just a really solid season. You went out, you competed, you had 2 top 10s, cashed a check in 8 of the 9 events, qualified in third, and had a fairly stress-free event on Lake Martin to close the year out. And now you're ready to fish the Elite Series in 2025.
It's pretty crazy, man. Yeah, I'm super blessed. It was definitely stressful at Martin. I won't say there was no stress, because that place, and I don't know. I've not had a good relationship with that lake in the past. It's not been one of my favorite lakes. So when I heard it was there, I was pretty upset. But then I saw that the field size of the tournament changed, and it got there was a smaller field, which helped in the long run with the points. So yeah, man, it was an amazing season. Santee Cooper hurt me, but I just knew I had to step it up and really grind the rest of the season to make it. Ended up doing that. So,
are you gonna be rooming with Logan next year? You guys gonna recreate the frat house of 2020?
I don't know yet.
Synergy there. Like there could be some filming opportunities there.
Yeah, I don't know yet. He's got his own group of guys that he runs with now, so I haven't talked to him really much about it. But I know that I'm definitely going to be traveling with Paul Marks.
Okay.
He traveled with me all this year, and Paul's an awesome dude, awesome fisherman. If you haven't seen his stats this year, you need to go look at those, because he's been catching them.
I don't know Paul at all.
Well, you need to have him on the show. And you need to have him on the show. He's not much of a talker, but you got to get him into it because he's.
Yeah, I didn't know you talked this much though. You're doing a good job. I was like, okay, we'll see if we can get an hour out of Tucker, and you've actually done a very good job of conversing.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I've had
11th,
fun.
12th, 10th, 6th. Those are his last 4. Holy cow.
Yeah, he had 4 top 10s this year and then an 11th and a 12th. So basically almost 6 top 10s.
Yeah. I would assume
he won the All-American and then
yeah, he did.
Yeah. And he also came in second in the regional or the invitational at Eufaula and made 50 grand off that too. So he's done good this year.
I need to get him on the show. If I start having a bunch of young guys on, then I get a lot of listeners that are like, what about the old guard? And then I get the old guard on and they're like, well, these guys aren't relevant anymore. So I'm trying to do like a happy medium. That's why I'm doing like EQ week. So I probably need to get in contact with Paul Marks. I would assume, Tucker, that in 2025, the goal is to actually finally fish in a Bassmaster Classic in 2026.
Yes, that's the ultimate goal. I've missed it by seconds 4 times and I'm ready to fish it.
That's unbelievable. You're 23 years old and you finished second to go to the Classic 4 times.
Yep.
All right.
It's been taunting me.
Do you feel any pressure? Because here's how I wanted to end the show. I wanted to say, like, first time on BTL, and we're going to look back on, I'll be able to like have this on a drive and look back 25 years from now at this interview and pull it back and be like, here's Tucker Smith in 2024 and it's 2044 now. And your list of accomplishments is this long. Like, does that put pressure on you? Do you feel like that's fair?
I mean, I don't know. You talking about like
Angler of the Years, Elite Series wins, Bassmaster Classic qualifications, Classic wins, weight records, limit streaks. Like,
yeah.
I mean, dude, it's you and Jordan Lee that have kind of come up like that with that much attention. And I mean, Joe's done a pretty good job of backing it up.
He has. Yeah, I'd say he has too. No, I'm not really. I don't know, man. I'm happy to just get there. You know, that was the biggest dream, just to get to the Elite Series. And it seems unreal, man. I don't think it's going to set in until Dave Mercer calls my name the first morning because it doesn't seem real at all. But I want to do well, and we'll see what happens. But it takes a lot of stress off, trying to make it there. So I'm excited.
Do you have a nickname yet?
No, I don't.
I will say this. If you want one, do not force it, because if you try to force a nickname on Dave Mercer, he will not give you a nickname. There are several anglers on the Elite Series that have continued to come with him with ideas for nicknames for him.
Yeah.
And Mercer goes the opposite way. He said if it's not natural, you can't force a nickname on somebody, so you just have to let that happen naturally.
Yeah. No, I definitely won't force it. I hope it's not something like funny or bad.
It won't be. All right, dude. I appreciate it, man. I really enjoyed this. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. I'm gonna let you bounce. You going to the lake today?
I am. I think I'm gonna go this afternoon for a few hours.
Sweet. What lake do you know?
I live on Gunnersville now.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that's not a bad one.
It's not a bad one to go to.
All right, Tucker. Thanks for jumping on BTL.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed coming on. Thank you.
All right. See ya. I won't see you in the Oaks next year, but I'll see you around.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
All right. The one and only Tucker Smith. Very interesting case study in what Bass has done as far as growing. Like, they're doing what they said they wanted to do. I'm saving this rant for the end of the show. Right now, we're going to bring in the one and only Dan O'Sullivan, who has his microphone muted. Now it's unmuted.
I didn't want to say anything.
What are your thoughts? Like, you kind of know Tucker. You've sent a couple of the private DMs. And now is that too much pressure on him, or is that what's expected of him now?
That's
what's expected of him, Dano.
Yeah, no, I jokingly said to you, but I'm not joking, because at Leach, after day one, he was heavily stressed. Impulse Lithium is the battery company that I work with as far as filming. So when I've been at the Opens, I film with Tucker, which means I'm going to film him quite a bit. He's good. But he was, after the first day at Leach, he was very, very nervous. And, you know, he recovered a bunch of points on day 2 up there. Of course, he only had 2 days up there. But then at Martin, even his parents were nervous. I talked to Dr. Drayton and Drayton, his dad's a dentist, and then his mom, and they were nervous as, you know, cats on the hot tin roof, proverbial. And I told them both after he was in the 20s after day 1, he's good. I said, what? I said, he's good. He can't fall out. Oh, we don't know that for sure. Well, Tucker came in and he increased his weight. I said, if he holds his weight at 8 pounds, he's fine, because that's what he was reporting on Bass Track.
The lowest he could get was 80 points, even if he finished last.
Yeah, and I told him that.
That was it.
Right, and I told him that. I told his parents that, and they said, "Well, that's comforting. Thank you." And actually, I called him during the day. We've seen him as a dentist. That's why I have his number. But Tucker came in, and I'm doing my filming with him because they wanted him on the Impulse social media. And I said, "Congratulations." And he goes, "It's not official yet." I go, "Dude, you're not going to finish any worse than 4th. What? You can't fall out." No. It's not. He was, and so I said, "Look, here's what it is. You had this many points. You're this far up. You can't, you'd had to finish dead last to make, oh." So I finally got him to say something on camera about making the elites and what it meant to him, but it was before the actual announcement, and he didn't want it. So he was nervous, very nervous on the day 1 at Martin. But he's
been a chosen one.
Well, let me say this about him. And I think the younger guys in general, they spend so much time evidence. He's saying he's going to go to Guntersville this afternoon. If they get 2 hours, they go to the water.
Yeah.
But I did a photo shoot with him 2 years ago. And I'm on the water with him, and we started talking about Aaron naturally. And I'm telling him some Aaron stories from the 90s. And, because that's when I met Aaron on Castaic, was in the 90s when I was going to school down there at the Masters College playing baseball. And I met my buddy John Viazanko, who introduced me to Aaron. And the first time I met Aaron, I went for a ride with him in his 482 Ranger or 481 Ranger that he had with a 175. And John's like, "That's a little rocket ship. You need to go for a ride in that." So that's the first time I was around Aaron. And knew him ever since. That was 93.
That's back when him and Carol were still dominating the West Coast Team Series.
They were.
Yeah.
Just about every tournament,
Yeah.
And I was telling Tucker these stories, and we finished for the day, and he walked up to me at the end of the day and he shook my hand. And now this kid is at the time, what is he, like 20?
What year would it have been?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's 23 now. So 2021. Yeah.
Right. And he walked up to me, shook my hand, and he looked at me and he said, "Thank you for telling me those stories about Aaron. That means a lot to me."
Mm-hmm.
And I went, "Oh, you're welcome." But in my mind, I'm thinking, A, you actually listened? I'm 50 something years old and you're 20 something. But then you think enough about the topic to pay attention, and not only pay attention, but thanks for sharing the information. I don't know. It impressed me.
Mm-hmm.
And he is dang good. He's dang good.
Well, like I said, we just spent the last hour and 20 minutes kind of going chronologically through. And if you wanted to put that in 20 seconds, you put that in like another sport, it'd be like a kid who was tutored by Tom Brady in throwing the football, won 4 or 3 high school national championships, went undefeated all 3 of the years, and was the player of the state player of the year those 3 years, was a 5-star recruit, went and won a national championship as a starter his freshman year, went undefeated that freshman year, and played ahead of the senior quarterback, who then went in the first round and mentored him his freshman year, then lost his wide receivers in the transfer portal, and still won another national championship, and then went number 1 overall in the draft. And now we're waiting for, I mean, that if you wanted to do the comparisons with Tucker Smith and fishing and football, that is 100% a parallel comparison to what we've seen. And we've never seen, I mean, that doesn't happen in football like that.
No, and it's a testament to, I guess, you know, and there's some things about college fishing that probably need to get worked on, and high school stuff, fish care, you know, operating boats, some of the unwritten rules, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, what have they always said? To be successful in the sport, you got to have two things. You got to have a young body and an old mind.
I thought you just had to have rich parents and be good at live scope.
Or work really hard at it.
It depends who they is, Dano.
Yeah,
who's they? It depends who you're listening to with they.
Well, no, okay, I'm 54 years old. I've been doing this a couple years longer than you. That's what they always told me. Have a young body and an old mind.
But we also have to mention, like, dude, that controversy that he went through on Gunnersville last year, like, he's going to have to work his way around that. Fishermen and people are elephants in this. Like, people don't forget.
You mean the Eufaula thing?
Or yeah, what did I say? Gunnersville? Eufaula. Yeah.
Eufaula.
The Eufaula deal. And then kind of the fallout around that, and then the message boards and all that. Like that's a sticking point with a lot of people with Tucker Smith.
But he handled it. He handled it face to face.
He said his statement, he put it out there, and then he didn't address any of the BS.
Right.
Yeah.
He handled it like a pro.
So.
And that's the way you got to be. I mean, dude, James Negemeyer told me something one time that it was a piece of advice that Dean Rojas gave him. Said, James, everybody loves you. You'll never hear anybody say a bad thing about you, but you haven't won anything major yet.
Yeah.
And the reality is that when you beat people, all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork with something. Now, there's some that, you know, maybe whether the rules were not written just right or whatever, there's some that there's loopholes or whatever. Maybe there are some that are pushing boundaries, whatever. But the reality is that if you beat people, you're going to get questioned.
Yep.
And it happens consistently.
But you'll also, if you're doing it right, be able to get around the bumps in the road. You mentioned Dean Rojas. I don't think a lot of people remember the fact that Dean had a very public DQ back towards the beginning of his career on the Red River.
Yeah.
And that blew up. It just wasn't the social media, and he went on KVD. He's been DQ'd. Alton Jones, he's been DA. I mean, all these guys have had it. Now, where I, as someone who follows it, who's passionate about it, who fishes it and fishes in it, I can understand mistakes when they're made. Like, that's why you have the rules. It's how you bounce back, how you behave, how you do it after. Where I start to get a little wonky on it is when I gotta be careful what I say here. Where I start to question things is when it becomes a pattern.
Correct.
That's where I raise an eyebrow. And I didn't have Tucker on last year after it. I didn't have him. I talked to him a couple times this year. Like I said, I met his parents at the Classic last year. They're very involved. Like, they're invested. They're involved in his career and the whole process. And I was like, dude, I talked to him at Leach, actually helped him bag his fish on day 2. And dude, he's still just a little bitty guy. He was talking about how when he was tiny, I could picture him in 8th grade playing football. Who let him put the pay? He had to be like 60 pounds.
Yep.
But like, dude, I'm like, I got to get him on the show. And then when I started doing the research, it's, I mean, there's never been, I mean, look at this. Everything on here, Dano, is something he has won or accomplished, or a title. It's never been done before. And the kid's 23.
Nope.
I mean, I'm looking at, my man fishing. I still got 2 third-place trophies from the Lake Thunderbird Wednesday night championship up there. Like, and I'm damn proud of them.
Yeah, I have 8 total wins in my career, and 2 club Angler of the Year titles I can claim to my name.
Yeah,
and that's the best I've got. But yeah, I mean, and I'm
glad you were on
54
to
years
talk
old.
about that, because I know, like, I mean, obviously, as soon as I came on here, people were like, I bet you're not going to ask him about it. You don't have the balls to ask him about it. Rich is on here saying that his nickname should be Lil Deputy, which is kind of funny. But
Little what?
Lil Deputy?
Little Deputy.
But like I said, he's going to have to deal with that. And from what I've seen so far, fantastic job. I'm a Tucker Smith fan.
Yep. I get it.
There you go.
He's
All right.
gonna be a
Speaking
good
of
one.
someone who has a lot of fans, Bryant Smith is like kind of launched himself into the stratosphere of professional bass fishing on the NPFL, the Opens, the Elite Series, and now he's on the verge of winning the U.S. Open with almost a 3-pound lead over Kyle Grover, and they're out on the water today.
2-pound lead.
2-pound lead.
43.89 to 40 or 43.84 to 41.88. So it's 2 pounds.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've never been good at math. I mean, is he going to win this thing, Dano?
So we had a little bit more wind today, but he did tell me, let me pull up the conditions real quick and see what it says. We were expecting more wind. It says wind calm, but anyway, maybe it's this afternoon. He told me that it had been slick here, Matt. I mean, and you fished one of these, and you know,
on mead, I feel like Mojave's a totally different animal. You look and you just see a 2 that starts with people's winning weight, and you're like, okay, yeah, you ain't seeing 23-pound bags out of mead.
No, I mean, in the springtime you will, but Mojave's smaller. It fishes tighter. Bryant has not yet had to share water with anybody, even going out.
Really, that's huge.
Yeah, neither has Kyle.
Oh,
they both got on their opening spots yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyle is fishing. He's junk fishing. He knows what he's
US
doing.
Open champ Kyle Grover. He won what, last year or 2 years ago?
Last year.
And then Bertrand won the year before.
And last year it was all live scope, drop shot minnows, and you know, the jig head minnows. This year, and I can say it now because last day of the tournament's going on, but yeah, Kyle showed me pictures of 5 to 7 inch striper that the bass he was catching were spitting up.
Oh, that's badass.
So he said, I'm catching them in 6 feet of water in the backs, and I'm catching them in 40, 50 feet of water out. And I'm running the whole lake.
Minnows, top waters, that type of stuff, just big bait fish imitators.
First day he caught fish on 4 different baits that he weighed in 4 different areas. Yesterday, Kyle still caught them on 4 different things, but caught more fish, but only had 2 fish over 4 pounds instead of 4 fish over 4 pounds. The last fish that he had in his bag on day 1 to cull that he wanted to really cull was a 315, and he couldn't cull it out. Yesterday, he had 2 over 4. He said, I did tie on a leader for my AAA in the morning, and he did hook a big one, and it broke off at the knot, and that's my fault. And he goes, and I'm watching that thing swim around out there after it, you know.
Trying to throw it.
Yeah, Bryant told me that it's slick, so I'm doing what I do when it's slick, which he's throwing a drop shot Strike King half shell on 6-pound Tatsu fluorocarbon. And but he said, I have power fishing stuff if it gets windy.
Have you seen a top 5 that's hotter right now out west? Now, as far as like West Coast legends, absent of like the guys who have fished 30 US Opens or won 4 of them. But with Brian Smith, Kyle Grover, Spencer Sheffield, Josh Bertrand, and Julius Mazie in the top 5, like you got 5 guys that I think all launched their boats this morning expecting to come in and hold the trophy up, even if they're 3 or 4 pounds back.
And the one who seemed to jive with this lake surprisingly the most is Sheffield. Sheffield told me yesterday it feels like Champlain. Obviously the landscape's different, but the way the fish set up, and he's catching them as deep as 40 to 50 feet, he said. Last year So the first year he was here, he said, I caught 5 of every 10 fish that I threw at. Last year, I caught 1 of every 6 or 8. He's up to 6 of 10 on this one, and it was a bait change. And he's not told me what it is yet, so I couldn't get it out of him. But he said, I just needed to do something different to present to them differently.
Wow.
I know he wants this tournament badly. Bryant wants this tournament badly. Kyle certainly would love to repeat.
And Julius is just out having a good time. He's just out having a good time. He's just riding the wave right now.
He said, well, I definitely feel less pressure going out today than I did yesterday or last year, that I'm in second place. Bryant's the one he goes, maybe Brian will get spun out. But Bertrand is Bertrand, steady as anything. I mean, his weights were steady. Of course, Bryant's were steady. Julius got on a bad rotation on day 1, so he got onto his rotation on yesterday. And Cody Steckel.
How far back, Dano? Like 44-34 is leading this thing. How far back today, realistically, can a guy make a run at this thing and come in with a shot of winning?
I honestly think I'm saying Steckel's probably the last one that really has a chance, 39 pounds. There are definitely big fish. The 6'9" that was weighed in, or 6'09" that was weighed in yesterday, was a largemouth.
Good Lord.
But I think Steckel at 39 pounds, because really the guys that are steady are weighing 4. I mean, you got to have you got to you're making up 4 pounds. So they got to stumble. Bryant's got to weigh.
You got to have a bunch of guys stumble to make that weight up.
Yeah, you got to. Bryant has to weigh, 18, 19 today, and Steckel's going to have to weigh 23.
Did you talk to Byron at all? Did you see what he did? He had 5 pounds the first day. Came back yesterday with 1930.
He lost him.
Oh, he had him hooked up?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And I think, so Kent Brown was here the first day.
Yep.
Ranger.
Yep. And
Byron came off stage, and, I'm sitting there, and I give him a hug, and Kent comes around to give him a hug, and he goes, I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. And Kent kind of gives him some business. And I said, well, dude, you're fine. You'll be fine. You know what you're doing. And he goes, I hate you guys. I need to keep them buttoned, and I need to get some water. Hate you guys. Just kidding.
He was fired up at the Hall of Fame to go fish that, like really fired up.
I know. Here's a lesson for anybody that ever comes out here to fish this thing, especially AAAs. Buy your fishing licenses.
Who got dinged?
6 people, and it DQs the pro too.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh, anybody like who? Can you name any?
I'm not going to go there. It's.
Oh, you can see the guys who zeroed on.
I think what happened.
Rough.
I think what happens is a lot of guys that live here were on auto renew, and maybe something happened.
Yeah.
But when you're traveling somewhere, for the guys that think I'm going to fish it as a non-boater, make sure you have all your licenses, and if you're going to fish it as a pro, which this is one of the coolest events out there.
Make sure your pro. Make sure your pro has. Make sure if you're a pro that your co-angler has this stuff.
But yeah, as a pro, double check, because in these things it becomes a team tournament, and you win as a team, you lose as a team. So
I was looking down the list here. Did you get a chance? A blast from the past. You remember Keith Neiswanger, right?
Oh yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk with him?
No, I almost walked up to him and said, Jeffrey says hi, but I didn't.
He was the original how do I want to say this? He's the original bass fishing TMZ. He had a website called The Brush Pile with Keith Neiswanger, and he wrote under a fake name. And he would come out with blogs about what was happening on the Elite Series and the FLW Tour, and during like the split and the changes and all that back in like the mid 2000s.
So he was the original Slick Johnson.
I guess I don't do TikTok, so I don't watch anything else. I don't watch any of that. But
no, you end up getting sent a bunch of things.
I'll let him dominate the TikTok landscape. Apparently.
Yeah, well, as much information as we get, Matt, I still think we have a responsibility to the sport and the guys that they get the chance to be able to say the things they want to say, and it's not up to me to blow it out. When they want to communicate whatever their changes or their things, that's up to them.
Yeah. Also, if you have something and you want to say it and it's public and you don't, it's also your right to do that as well.
Correct.
So I'm indifferent on that topic.
So,
but yeah, Keith Neiswanger. I'd love to get a hold of him. Do you have contacts for the U.S. Open? I wonder if that would be. Like, I'm a media member, right?
I can forward it to you.
Dude, I would love to get him on the show. Like his stuff was always like very like witty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And he'd do that. What would he do that like he'd name the whatever the year, and we got Jeffries named one of his professionals of the year or something one year, nominated him, and he selected him.
Like it was back when people like would go to websites.
Yeah. That was right after people used to go to pick up newspapers. Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's anything online about it anymore.
I don't think so. No, dude, it's pretty cool. There's going to be by the end of today with the One Bass Angler of the Year standings, there'll be 25 guys that are given berths into the Bass Nation Championship for 25.
Yep. Oh, that list is insane.
Of who's going?
Yeah, who's in the Bass Nation Championship next year? Have you seen it?
From out of One Bass, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's Grover. It's
here. I got it right here. It's Alex Klein, Joe Arube, Nick Wood, Chris Raza, Brandon Mowers. I just don't want to not name someone that's like big out there that I haven't heard of. But then Austin Bonjour, Kurt Dove.
Raza.
Yeah.
I've known Raza for 30 years. He learned to flip from D.
Well, that's pretty strong. We're talking D. Thomas, the father of flipping.
I learned to throw jerk baits from Chris Raza.
There you go.
He's one of the most well-rounded fishermen out there. He also lost a bunch of fish yesterday. Here's a funny story from Raza. He is witty as anything, but dry about it. There's a guy that used to fish out here. He now lives in Tennessee named Mike Tuck. And when punching came out, in the 06, 07, 08, whatever it was, when it started happening, Raza's going down a bank and he's flipping, punching. And Tuck looks at him and goes, Raza, I didn't know you know how to punch. And Chris looked at him and said, you mean flip? It's flipping.
Yeah.
That dude has been 1/2 day away from winning the One Bass Daiwa Angler of the Year in the past. He's won more money on the Delta. I mean, he's one of those guys that all the old guard, that's one they always feared was Chris Raza.
That's cool. A couple other guys. Roy Hawk, lead series. The whole 9 yards. He's done it. Julius Mazey's fishing good now. Bill Brown, Justin Patton. There's some names. And then you go over to the AAA side. Salvucci Lake Mead Open as a AAA, finish in the top 5. So now some poor soul is going to go to the 2025 Bass Nation Championship.
Well,
Salvucci in the back of the boat.
Salvucci was a casualty of his boat being broken.
Yeah.
And they needed AAAs.
Yeah. And then I'm sure he got in the boat and was like, step aside, amateur. let Nick Salvucci lead you to the promised land.
I'll show you where to go.
I'll show you where to go. But still, at the Bass Station, someone's going to look back there and have U.S. Open champ Nick Salvucci fishing behind him.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's an impressive list. Uribe's on there. Technically, Ish is supposed to be on there, but
because
they made
he?
Something about
he's fishing the EQs this year, and the EQs were not because I see what you're saying. It's a path to the Classic.
Yep.
So if you're fishing another tournament with a path to the Classic, which the EQs are, I actually called Billy Egan and asked him about that.
Yeah, and Bryant, it looks like Bryant will be one of those, but he's not.
Yeah, he won't go on. So then it goes down to the next 5 to stack the 5. Right. Now, if the 25 is like in the fall, which it obviously is. Now, I don't know where it's going to be.
I don't either.
My God, you put that on a Clearwater Lake with spotted bass, and we're pretty much screwed with this group. I mean, that's fair assessment, is it not?
Yes, and then you get the one where what if they're going to a lake that they've got the big gizzard shad or whatever, and all of a sudden the glide bait guys come out.
Yeah. Hey, how many Kleins are there that fish on the West Coast? Obviously, Gary Klein originally from the West Coast. I'm pretty sure Alex is his nephew.
Yeah, Steve and Steve is his brother, and there were 3 of them fishing Clear Lake, I believe.
There's 3 of them here because there's Nick that is qualified through Clear Lake. Then Alex, Mr. Clean, is qualified through Shasta, and then Gary's kicking butt in the U.S. Open this year.
Yeah, and then Gary's brother Steve fishes as well.
So there's 4 Kleins that fish.
Yeah, and Steve and Alex, and the other one.
Todd Klein is spelled differently, completely unrelated. Todd Klein's the surfer. I'm buddies with Todd. He's having a good event too. But just I was saying the names. I mentioned Todd Klein, different Klein, K-L-I-N-E versus K-L-E-I-N.
There's Steve Klein and there's 2 brothers, Alex and another brother. I don't know that he's qualified to go back there yet. That fish. Steve is Gary's brother, and then
they're all related somehow to bet the Hall of Famer Gary Klein, like the Gary Klein,
not Todd Klein. But yes,
yeah. like the Gary Klein of 30 Bassmaster Classics and fishes BBT right now. Yeah,
right.
No, Todd Klein's a former professional surfer
and now a One Bass Hall of Famer, a Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, and a One Bass Hall of Famer. Yeah, they
really?
One Bass inducted Gary Klein, Dave Glebe, and Gary Yamamoto this year into the One Bass Hall of Fame.
Did you not think if Tucker went out there, he would like maybe take him 3 or 4 years before he was like fishing on the final day to win a U.S. Open?
Dude, 7 days of practice. You don't think Tucker Smith would figure out how to win this tournament in 7 days?
If I'm
practice?
him, do you not want to win every U.S. Open? Like after that, I'm taking up golf. I mean, I'm going both in fishing, golf, and then I'm calling up Roger Federer and say, "Hey, man, teach me how to swing a racket." I'm Grand Slamming the U.S. Opens.
That'd be cool.
I'm serious.
You're a nut.
You just want to clean house on the U.S. Anything that's a U.S. Open that you can win is prestigious. Even if Johnny decided to name it after. I'd love to be.
That's true.
For those
That's true because he did win that Bass Pro Shops U.S. Open. Just think about it. 7 days of official practice.
Yeah, he would.
Saturday to Saturday. Tucker'd have them figured out.
What do you think that was like? Like, who do you think had the call that was like, dude, who's going to tell Johnny that we already have a U.S. Open? Like, where did that? There had to have been that call where they had the meeting.
I think there was.
They're like, hey, Johnny. So there's this thing out west. There's this thing out west. It's called the U.S. Open, and he'd be like, and
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. That kind of.
They've
okay.
kind of been doing it for like 40 years. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Thanks.
this is my tournament's in the U.S. and it's open to Nitro owners.
Well, technically, it's not.
Yeah, it's open to Nitro owners who've won less than 100,000.
Yeah, you had to qualify through something.
I'm not ripping on Johnny. I'm just saying that would be. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that.
Yeah.
Where the phrase, I'm sure the phrase "the show goes on" might have come out of his mouth.
It might have also been one of. It might have been one of those things that won't let them sue us.
Yeah. Well, now isn't Nitro and Bass Pro and all that a sponsor of One Bass?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Previous companies that had been involved, there was a request for bid that went out last year, expanding to 5 tournaments, and Bass Pro and Nitro won it. So, but everybody was given an opportunity to participate, and that was how it turned out to be. Ranger, well, it's technically Bass Pro and Ranger, but it's White River, so anything goes as far as marketing goes when it comes to promotion. And Garen's out here for it. Their kind of field guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's out here enjoying the West and all that stuff in the tournament. It's the 42nd occurrence of the U.S. Open, Matt. There were 2 years that they took off because of the switch between the original organization and One Bass picking it up. But it's 42 times this event's been held, all but the last 3 on Mead. The last 3 with the water situation couldn't quite say we're going to do it.
You think in 2 years it'll be back on Mead?
It's a possibility. I know that Laughlin loves having it here, and the tourism people, they are very active in keeping it here.
I got you.
Las Vegas, there's an awful lot for people to do in Las Vegas, and
what are you talking about?
It doesn't seem to. Well, I mean, Las Vegas didn't care to try to compete to keep ICAST, so
yeah, it's true.
They're going to turn around the next week and replace it with another convention that wants to be here, whether it's the Adult Video Awards or whatever. There's going to have stuff here. So, but Laughlin seems very, very interested in trying to keep the event here.
I was going to let you go, but my buddy Juice, Jarrett from Juice's Jigs.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's 10:26 on a Wednesday. He's got to be working. There's no way he's listening to this. If he is, it is what it is. He knows what's coming. If not, Juice, and you're listening, do not share this with him. I have to go get a sign. So a 6-year-old plays flag football.
Yeah.
Juice was dumb enough to invite me and Courtney to the game tonight. And he's coach. I'm gonna run an Omnia ad. It's 33 seconds. I gotta go grab the what we're bringing to the game tonight. We'll be right back, BTL.
Omnia Pro gives you the confidence to eliminate dead water on thousands of lakes across the U.S. Exclusively through Omnia, utilize our map layers containing critical real-time satellite information to see water temperature, water clarity, and important weather data all in one place, along with 1-foot contours for Navionics and detailed CMAP social mapping. Matched with Omnia's industry-leading loyalty credit program on all your tackle and gear needs, this is the only app you need in your arsenal for success on the water.
All right, good. We're back, BTL. So like I said, we're going to go into my buddy Juice's Jigs. He makes the hair jigs. He is 6-year-old and he coaches. So Courtney and I made signs. So like this is the sign that Courtney made. Number 10 on the field.
Oh.
Number 1 in our heart. And then Courtney made this sign. Go Parker. Number 10.
That's cute.
And then I made this sign. Number 10 is better than his dad ever was. So as he's like coming down the field or get the photo op as he coaches.
That's awesome. Dude, he needs to come out here for this thing.
I don't know. He's a redhead, and I don't know if that he could handle the sun.
No, come out here and show the West what.
Oh, the hair?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The dude has an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. He coaches girls soccer, boys baseball, flag football, works full time. He just doesn't have any time right now.
It's next year. Set it up to be here as part of Sponsor Row. Show off the jigs. Get the West to buy him more.
He's selling out in 2 minutes. He just sold 140. He's trying to do an October drop and build them, and he's like, it's going to sell out again in a minute and a half.
Yeah, I get it.
So it's good.
Marketing is marketing.
It is. I agree. I would like to get him out there. He's going to Mexico in December with us. I have to get on that. Like, we had some slots open up. There were some NPFL anglers that were going to go into Mexico at Pro Bass Adventures.
But they got their
and it got rescheduled. It's that middle of December. If you have if you sent an email in the past or are interested, we're actually going to get those guys on the show. I'll announce it now. I did a deal with BTL. They'll be on as an official sponsor in 2025. But that December, it's like the 7th or 8th through the 14th or 15th. For the guy put all trek on the boat there. Garments. You have 2 options. You want to go to Mexico, drink 7-ounce Pacificos, not look at a screen, have it completely off, and have the guide in the back of the 18-foot Ranger run the trolling motor and take off all your fish while you bask in the glory of topwater and swim bait bites. Have at it. You want to tell that guy to take the day off, engage the trolling motor, and scope your heart out on El Salto. Have at it. Come in for lunch, take a little siesta. Do a little deal. Like the thing packed immediately, filled up, and now there's like I said, there's some spots open. So if you are interested in doing that, Matt@basszone.com. I will be responding to those emails.
Let me guess. You opt to let them take the fish off the hook for you, don't you?
No, so last time I went, I will let them net it if it's over 4, just because of where you are on El Salto. It's like it's not like you've got like an ER down the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you actually find yourself in a predicament, it's nice to let the dudes with the pliers. But they want to take everything off but once OL, who is our guide, kind of realized we've been around a fish or two, he kind of lets you take it off. Plus, we caught a bunch on 5/8 single swim baits on 3/4 ounce heads. So there's just one hook. But on the spook and the trap and stuff, those things are just nasty mean.
Oh gosh,
you've done El Salto, haven't you?
Nope, never gone. The way I viewed it, I had the Delta and Clear Lake in my backyard, and if I want that kind of fishing right now, I can go to Guntersville. So
no, you can't. This is different, dude, because these fish, I'm not saying you can't catch the same weight, but the fish down in Mexico, you don't understand the natural level of aggression that a largemouth has, right? We drastically lose appreciation for the unbridled kamikaze aggression that an unpressured, hungry 5-pound largemouth has. It's amazing how fast and what they can hunt down and how hard they can hit something when there's not 1% of danger going off in their head when they approach a bait. I've never seen that before.
Then it's very similar to having 3 teenage daughters when you have payday.
Yes, I would assume so. I've not put myself in that situation, but I'll take your word for it.
No, dude, this thing is so 3:00 today. The weigh-in starts. It's kind of cool for anybody that wants to tune in. It's on One Bass's Facebook page is where they're broadcasting it. I believe the YouTube channel possibly as well, but they do it cool. You go out in order of the pros go out in the order of their standings, but they come back in reverse. So if you're leading the tournament, you go out first, but come back in the last flight. You're the last boat due in. So, you know, in the past when this thing was run, you were trying to keep people back, and you have fish care problems and stuff like that because they're sitting in a marina or sitting in a parking lot trying to set up but so 3 o'clock till probably 5, they'll crown a champion.
One Bass WONBASS YouTube channel live. You can watch it.
Yep. And the standings are at One Bass Events, WONBassEvents.com. The daily stories, of course, you know, first 2 days, you don't get much out of them.
How many of the top 10 are throwing dice, Dano? I've been following the One Bass, like in the story, out of the top 10, if you do the top 10 baits, how many guys got one? Okay. One die.
And I'm pretty sure it's Julius.
It looked like it was a nail weighted die, in my opinion, from the pictures that I saw, similar to what Easton Fothergill was throwing on Leech.
Yeah. Cause, I know that's what Julius won Lake Mead on. And I did ask him yesterday, Same stuff as Mead. He said, "Yep."
Wow. Well, it was on the One Bass Instagram.
And they'll take pictures and post them, but they're not showing who.
Yeah.
They don't show who, which is smart.
Yeah. It's a freaking caveman. Caveman's using the most progressive bait on the market.
The caveman?
Julius.
Yeah.
That dude's smart. If you guys, he's got a lot of cool JD, like he's extremely knowledgeable on JDM stuff.
Yeah, he is.
Like I'd say one of the most knowledgeable in the country when it comes to JDM products.
I keep trying to remember the first year that we did the live show that Mark and Dave came out here. I want to say 12.
It's a long time ago.
But I think that was Julius's first U.S. Open. He was fishing as a AAA.
Yeah, probably.
And he was
fishing with Brett Height.
I think he had just turned 17 or 18 or something, and I think that was his first U.S. Open, but it was a AAA. And he led one of them at Mead and had a rough final day and fell off. So he felt like when he won at Lake Mead Open in September that he'd kind of gotten revenge on that. He told me.
There you go.
And he chased the Opens for 4 years or 5 years, you know?
Yeah, I talked to him on a lot on the Opens. I was surprised he didn't. It was just, I think he just needed one of those to click and he would have been off and rolling. It's real hard to get on a roll in the Opens because there's so many uncontrollable variables.
From guys coming out here, I mean, legitimately, the only body of water, there's 2 bodies of water out here that hold major tournaments that are anything akin to what happened, what it is out east. And that is the Columbia River and Mead. The rest of them are smaller than anything we fish out there for the most part. The Coosa River lakes are pretty small. But this one's only 28,000 surface acres. And I know that feels big, but compare that to Kentucky Lake, which is 140 miles long.
Plus, there's not a lot of hidey holes on that. Isn't it kind of just like boom with points, and then you run out on either end? So
yes.
It's not like Mead where you can like go on a typical Lake Mead. You can get the hell off in Vegas Walk. You can go up to the Gibson Bed. You go up to Overton.
Yeah.
You excited? You were impressed?
Temple Bar.
Yeah.
You can run all the way up the Colorado River if it's good. Of course, you got no signal or anything up there. You better be able to get back. But the here it's different. And Clear Lake, it's the largest body of water totally within the borders of California, or largest natural reservoir, whatever you want to say. But it's only 19 miles end to end.
Mm-hmm.
And you get out on Gunnersville and you realize that's, an eighth of the size of the lake that you're fishing. And so these things get a ton of pressure. And these guys keep figuring out how to drop giant bags of smallmouth on the scales. And to make things, more interesting here, when Bertrand won with his 20 plus a day average, that he did 60 some odd pounds in 22, all of a sudden every other tournament circuit in the nearby area started bringing at least one of their tournaments here. So this place has just received a tremendous amount of pressure because of the visibility that the U.S. Open brought to it. So they're saying it's fishing better than it did last year. Some of it's bait change, some of it's, which is weird too, because the water's warmer this year than it was last. So it was slick. It was slick for 2 days, and they caught heavy. Dude, there were 9 bags over 20 pounds on the first day of the tournament.
Yeah, it was
and
impressive.
There were
It looked fun.
27 bags over 18 on the first day.
I want to wrap things up. I do want to mention this. I still get asked about this a shocking amount. I believe you're the last person in the bass fishing world to see Bradley Hallman in person. He went to. He's going to be upset that he was even mentioned in the podcast, but I could bet 100% he's not listening right now. So.
No, I can too.
You give us a Bradley Hallman update.
He's loving his life. He's doing the dad stuff, going to Sooner games, although that's got him frustrated, just like the rest of us.
We're not even bringing that up. I'm going to the homecoming game at 11 versus South Carolina. Dear God,
yeah,
beat South Carolina. But rocking and rolling, doing his thing.
Yeah, hunting, caring for his land, and hanging out with the kids. Don's working as hard as ever, and looks good. I know this. The boat is still sitting in the garage. I didn't see it because I didn't go to the house, but he's told me the boat is still sitting where it was when he brought it back from the last Elite event in 23, and it still has the same 3 spinning rods on it that were there when he came back from the St. Lawrence River, and hasn't moved. He's happy. We went to, what's the name of that Mexican restaurant he loves there? Friday nights.
Mara's.
Yep, Tahara Mara's. We went there again.
That place is dangerously good.
I know.
They have the giant plates.
We were there, obviously we were there for
you that they put them in the oven with the plates on. Like they never say like, hey, like this plate's approximately 600 degrees. They just put it in front of you.
Melt through the table and land on your lap.
And you just slightly move it and you're like, ah!
Tara Muhara.
Time, yeah.
And then what's funny, Bradley loves his hometown. He loves Norman, and he's a very friendly guy to everybody. And, you're sitting in there, and people that were there for Tennessee for the game, had heard this was the place to be. And some guys showed up, and we were getting ready to leave, and it was about time to shut it down. I guess they were not serving anybody else, and they walked in and they were looking, and the guy says, no more. Bradley went outside. The guys had Ubered over there. There were 2 of them. He went outside, started talking to him. And the next morning when we got together, he's like, yeah, I took those guys over to this other restaurant because I knew they could get some food over there. I drove them over there, and they bought me a beer, and we sat there and talked for a while.
That's cool. All right, Dan, I'm 2 hours and 10 minutes into the show today. I know you got to head over there and start getting things dialed in for the final day weigh-in of the One Bass U.S. Open, the 42nd edition.
Yeah, just
Bass U.S. Open.
Check it out. There's a lot going on with it. There's a bunch of stuff coming out, AOI, all those things. It's going to be a cool day.
Also, big thank you. I'll let you roll, Dano, because I'll say a little piece. I appreciate it, man.
Boomer
Sooner. Hopefully that's a Boomer Sooner winning record by the end of this year. I'm optimistic, though. I'm optimistic. If you're a bass fisherman, you just got to hope that it's like, catching them late in the day. May not start out with a limit before noon, but also big shout out to Tucker Smith for jumping on. I said I was gonna rant. It's not like a rant. It's more just like an observation. When I was kind of going through the Tucker Smith stuff, at the beginning of the show and before the show. I was like, man, and I've said this before, Bass has done an incredible job, and they do not get enough credit for it. They get picked apart for decisions that they make. And I've had this conversation with a number of different people over the past year. There's nothing wrong with being critical or taking a close look at any organization, regardless of what you're in, especially when it's a for-profit organization that you put your money towards or have the opportunity or option to put your money towards. That being said, there are two organizations right now in the world that you could make a full-time, living as a professional angler that offers the platform, that offers the pedigree, the validity that validates it. And that's Bassmaster. And it is MLF, old FLW. It's been around for a long time. A lot of guys over there make a great living. But on the Bassmaster Elite Series, man, it just seems like they've been getting drilled a lot for every single decision they make. And like I said at the beginning when I talked about the power breaks, you can't make everyone happy. But one of the things that they don't get enough credit for is the developmental process that they have done with the junior, the high school, and the college levels and the open levels. When I first started covering this game in 07, 08, and 06, those were the first 3 years, there was so much talk about how hard it was for the rookies to survive on the Elite Series because they weren't ready for multiple day tournaments. They hadn't fished outside of their region. They weren't ready for the entry fees. They didn't know what it was like to travel. And Bass, looking at the health of their organization, said, okay, what can we do to better equip our anglers so when the ones that want to go through all of those levels, that want to become professional anglers, are in a better spot when they actually make it, when they realize their dream and it becomes a dream instead of a nightmare. And they started, they had the casting kids and all that, which is the reason why I'm in the sport, but they started with the juniors, which then went to the high school. And then you saw, like, today was a perfect example. 2018, 2019, 2020, Tucker Smith, he met Aaron because of Aaron's daughter and their relation with the school and the high school fishing program. And you look at how many of these young anglers started at that high school level and then they went to the collegiate. Like it was nothing. He wasn't even thinking like, oh yeah, like all these different schools wanted me. Like that didn't exist. Like that was built by Bassmaster, who then also added the high school All-Americans in, which highlighted 10 anglers who have both on and off the water accomplishments. You look at the college program, and when I joined it, Steve Bowman, who's in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, who's on involved with that. He was like emceeing the 2007 college national championship. There were 36 boats in it. You look at what and just Bass, Wade and a number of other anglers have a big part of that too. But you look at how quickly that grew and how it became a staple. And then the fact that they had the guts to add a Bassmaster Classic spot to the collegiate decision, which they took a lot of flack for that from the Elite Series anglers, from the traditionalists who said, well, why are we giving a Bassmaster Classic spot to a college angler? Well, look at the college anglers who have qualified through that bracket and the ones that are on the Elite Series now that are winning Angler of the Years, that are winning Bassmaster Elite Series tournaments, that are winning Bassmaster Classics. That is like was a big thing when they did that, and they stuck with their guns that. And then when they made all the changes to the opens, going from the 3 divisions, and they had so many guys that when they went to the EQs, because they listened to the open guys, they said, we're going to do this because we think it better prepares our anglers. And they lost some anglers on that. They took a lot of heat for that, for going for that. And yeah, it's been tweaked, and yeah, it's going to change, going into next year a little bit, but it's still a 7 tournament process, even going into next year with the 4 from each division and then the 3 that are qualifiers. And then you look at the results over the past 3 years of the longevity, the return rate, the earnings for those anglers that have been through the system. Like 30-40% of these kids have been through the system, that started at the high school level, went to the collegiate level, went to the open level, and are now on the Elite Series. And it's like, there's still some people that are shocked as to why 22 to 26-year-olds are not only competing but are thriving on an elite series that traditionally required 3 years to just know that you're going to survive, 5 or 6 years to get your feet under you, and then you start making the good living. It's that they had the freaking blueprint. They did it, and we are seeing the fruits of that labor. And along the way, each step, there are a lot of people like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? So I don't think Bassmaster gets enough credit for putting their neck out, for putting resources to it, for saying, how can we make this a better platform for our anglers? Are there still things that are broken? Yes, but show me any major platform with this many independent contractors in it where everybody's happy with the system. So I legitimately want to send like a attaboy to Bassmaster for what they're doing. And today's show with Tucker Smith is proof that the system works and that you're building anglers who are set up for longevity in their careers. Because Bassmaster's gotten beat around lately between some of their decisions and, you know, what they decided, what they didn't at all levels. And I think that needs to be highlighted and understood. All right. That's all I got for today. Dakota Ebert is going to come out later today on a recorded show. Then tomorrow we're back live. Frank Scalish, 8:30 a.m. Central Time on a Thursday. Talk to you later. Watch the WON Bass U.S. Open weigh-in. If you're listening to this show live or catching the replay, you can also catch the replay on that. Head to WON Bass, find out everything on the U.S. Open, the 42nd edition. Later.